All right, and let's get started. First thing I think I should do is chop up some ginger, dried ginger, that is. Hi there. Welcome to my kitchen here on this Sunday morning where I am about to do some fruit chopping. Dried fruit, that is, with one exception. And I'm fortunate enough to have some candied ginger here, which anybody who's eaten this stuff knows this is pretty intense. So this is certainly going to help give this cake some flavor. But yes, here we are once again for the third time in the past week, attempting to bake a fruitcake. And yeah, I have to say that I'm going to be certainly looking at fruitcake with a new respect after this because of all the things I thought would set my oven on fire. I certainly didn't think fruitcake would be one of them. So yeah, that's one of those things I think you can add to your list of the of legendary facts about fruitcake. Namely, it actually started a fire in my oven. Nonetheless, at least, if nothing else, I think I can safely say my oven is up and running again. I spent the last couple of days while doing things, Christmas shopping and holiday shopping and all that. But I also took the time to thoroughly clean out and examine the oven as best as I could. Everything gave the indication that despite the fire, the oven was not actually harmed. It seems like the fire just simply took place on just that, on the floor of the oven, and did not actually affect any of the actual working parts, including the wiring and the gas valve. So, once I've given it a thorough cleaning, in fact, yeah, I sprayed it with oven cleaner, left it overnight, thoroughly cleaned it, scrubbed it off. Then I ran the oven to burn off and dry it out. Then I did that a second time, cleaned off the oven again, and ran the oven a second time. So anyway, here is some candied ginger for a starter. Now let's get going with some dried apricots here. And so after all that, um, looks like my oven is once again in working condition. Although here is where we're going to have to find that out, aren't we? Okay, I'm supposed to do about 2 cups of dried fruit. And this will not take long to chop. These are some apricots, by the way. All right. Yeah, as mentioned in the title of this video, I'm using, well, my own fruitcake recipe. There are no original recipes, of course, never have been. In that, I essentially cobbled the ingredients together, modified them as best as I can, and came up with my own fruitcake recipe. One that I've been using now for the past several years because I think it creates a good, tasty fruitcake. And most of all, it's designed to be a fruitcake for people who don't like fruitcake. Because everybody, and that there are a whole lot of people there who would just simply say fruitcake. I don't like fruitcake without even trying it. That's why this particular recipe for fruitcake does not contain any of those horrid radioactive fruitcake mix things that you see in those giant tubs at Wally World. Instead, I am simply chopping up. Where did I just put that? Here it is. Simply chopping up, as you can see, dried fruit, which people do like to eat. And there is going to be plenty of it in this cake. As I said, that was candied ginger. Here are some apricots. I think I'll eat one myself. Nummy, nummy. Not too difficult to cut up either because, well, it's dried fruit. All right. So far, so good. I'm supposed to do about 2.5 cups of this. I don't think that will be a problem. To this, we have some, well, it says chopped dates, so I don't even have to chop these up. What I do have to do is get these things out of the bag, though. That didn't seem to work. All right. So much for that bag. Plenty there. Love these myself. Yum, yum. Dried pineapple. And there are going to be a lot more things going into this cake besides just the dried fruit. Among other things, again, I am using my own recipe for this cake batter as well. I have made spice cakes with this recipe. Essentially, just prepared this recipe without the fruit. And what you have left is a pretty decent tasting spice cake. At least I think so. So, all of that should make it all the more appealing. Appealing, get it? Ha ha ha. Hello to everybody. Hello, Rick Stumbo and Dorothy Clay Gardner. Good Sunday morning, everybody. And Granny Graham TBD and Rich Qualls. Hello to everybody. Early show, yeah. It's an early show this morning because I want this fruitcake to be done in time to take to friends and family this afternoon, so that we can actually eat it. I've got this dried mixed berries mix, dried cranberries, cherries, and blueberries. That all sounds good. Yeah, that is definitely plenty of mix right there, and I'm still not done yet. In addition to this, get to throw in some raisins, of course. Don't need to do this whole container. And this is optional, but I like this. Some golden raisins as well. It gives a nice, color contrast here, to all of these darker raisins. And golden raisins taste good too. Come on. All right, just do it this way. Click. Nice to have a good knife. Come on, you know what. Open this stupid thing up. Okay, I do not want this thing to explode all over the place. There. All right. That is definitely plenty of fruit. Yeah. Okay, let's at least get this thing back in the box. There we go, and here is our mix for a nice and easy fruitcake. Yay! That means, now that we've done that, let me put the knife away before I do anything else. Put it aside. I am determined not to have any more accidents. I'm a little tired of accidents at this point. Let's put the fruit aside. And the next thing we need to do is prepare a little baking secret known as baker's goop. And this is what I'm going to be using to coat the cast iron cake pan. Hello, Rich Qualls watching from Southern California. Well, then I can tell, I know, that it's only 7:30 in the morning for you. Well, like I said, thank you to everybody who's been kind enough to be here live. You can always watch the replay. I'm really not asking anybody to take up time on their Sunday morning, but nonetheless, thank you to everybody who has been kind enough to be here. So, as mentioned, this is going to be baker's goop that I will be using to coat a cast iron baking pan. So, to this, let's get out. Do about a tablespoon flour. Tablespoon of shortening, or in this case, Crisco. And about a tablespoon of oil. In this case, I'm using canola oil because I currently have a lot of it on hand, despite the fact that this big jug is almost empty. And from here, we just simply, carefully, because I don't like spilling flour all over the place, mix everything together until it becomes a nice gooey paste. And this isn't working with this, is it? Let's dig out a knife instead. Butter knife, that is. Put that in the sink. Let's try this again. I wonder if I might even need to add a little bit more liquid because this seems awfully thick. I think I'll do that. I think I'll put another splash of the. I don't need to make it really thin, but I think a little bit thicker than that. Like that. Oh, that's doing much better. Much, much better. Now this is more like baker's goop. All right. Now that we've done that, put this aside. Basting brush, and most importantly, the large cast iron baking pan. Is there too much light here? Let me see if I should turn down this light a little bit. All right. Okay, good. Anyway, as I said, the large cast iron bundt pan, or rather the fluted baking pan, as they call it. This is, in fact, the same pan that I used to attempt to prepare that fruitcake last week. and it was in the oven when the fire started. And this thing ended up, well, of course, the cast iron itself wasn't damaged, at least. The fire wasn't hot enough to do that. But it had a really thick coating of soot on it that I had to clean off. And yes, I made sure that there's no smoky residue or anything on this before I started using it today. Although I suppose a smoked fruitcake may not sound so bad. Thing is, of course, we have to generously coat the inside of this. And I also don't want to bump the camera. That would not be good. Which means once this is done, we can actually put a cake batter together. How special. And this is why, again, we call it baker's goop. I mean, as you saw, but as you can see, it does a good job coating this cast iron pan. And I am indeed quite fond of using this, especially when I make fruitcake, because folks who know my channel know that I have a fond way. I am very fond of a method of preheating a cast iron cake pan, and which helps to keep it from sticking. Can't seem to do that with fruitcake because the batter is completely different from your typical cake batter. The batter is so thick and heavy that you need to scoop it in, like with a shovel, rather than pour it in. So preheating the pan doesn't really give it quite the same consistency. But there we go. A little bit more here, a little bit more there. And I do believe our cake pan is ready. So put this aside, keep my mess in the sink. And I can move this shortening out of the way. We don't need it anymore. Now we get to change the view around a little bit. All right, where did my mouse go? Here it is. Okay, I'm in church. Oh, you're watching this in church? All right, I won't say anything. Good morning, Rocket Caver and Rick Stumbo. Yes, thank you again for showing up. As I said, I understand it's a Sunday morning, and again, I'm not asking people to take time out of their schedule, like being in church, but I do want to get this cake done this morning. So, all right. And actually, we are now done with the hard part because that's the other thing about fruitcake. Fruitcake is one of the easiest recipes in the world to prepare. Literally, at this point, all you have to do is throw everything together in this big bowl to make the batter. And because the batter is so thick and heavy, it's practically guaranteed that it will not stick in the pan and it will come out of the pan in one piece. So, all right, that means now, what am I missing? Nuts, I'm missing something. Oh yeah. Okay. Half a cup of softened butter, which is, of course, one stick. And this is definitely softened, at least. Maybe a little too much. There we go. That'll do. And now we go through the ingredients list. Where are my measuring cups? Here they are. It means it's time to start taking out 1 cup, or in this case, it's going to be 2 1/2 cups of brown sugar. Did I miss anything? Was I supposed to start with this? Okay, good. I am. Yeah, I was worried about that. Okay. That's 2 1/2 cups of brown sugar. So there's 1. Then to this, 4 large eggs. Where are my eggs? There they are. Okay. Do this right. 1. Come on. I've said many times before, I do crack my eggs on the counter rather than on the side of the bowl. That was something I learned pretty much in the beginning from Alton Brown. Here comes number 3. The idea is if you crack your egg on the side of the bowl, that it's actually forcing tiny pieces of shell into the egg. And we don't want that. Even though I'm still not good enough that I cannot be guaranteed every egg I crack will have the yolk intact. The important part, of course, is we don't want the shell. There's 4. And from this, we can start our whisking. Cream, sugar, butter, and eggs together. This at least, I can see that even though it's soft in butter, it's still pretty thick. In fact, I'm already regretting using a whisk. Nonetheless, okay, that helps. Yay, it's working. I could use my mixer for this, I know. But in fact, this batter is going to get so thick that I really can't use the mixer. However, I am regretting using this whisk. So let's get this stuff out of the whisk and then just use this thing, shall we? In fact, what I should even do, well, okay, come on. Just a tiny bit more should be enough. Once again, I'm showing you how not to prepare a cake batter. Evidently, it's softened butter, but may not be softened enough. Well, it is all going to come together when it bakes in the oven, so that's really not going to be too much of a problem. All right, well then I'll stop there and we will move on to the next ingredient, which is the flour. 3½ cups, in fact. So, here's where we get out my cup, my 1 cup measuring cup. 1, 2, 3, and about a half a cup. Now let's put the cover on the flour so I don't have an accident and spill that all over the place. Not that I've ever done that before. All right. Let me see. Okay, yeah, I think I should indeed try mixing all this together again, because this is going to be very thick at this point. This is what I mean as to why I did not use a mixer. However, I do have some more liquid still to go into this. So I'm not worried at this point that it's not all yet coming together. I've made this recipe a number of times, so it will work. Okay. To this, here comes a little bit more liquid. For starters, half a cup of spiced rum. Once again, this will certainly add some flavor. Release the kraken. And the alcohol in the rum is going to boil off or evaporate rather, as the cake bakes. Some say it doesn't completely boil off, but my understanding is that's still not a problem. So there's half a cup of rum. Oh yeah, really. I don't know if it's a good idea to imbibe on a Sunday morning. So all of that rum will be going into the cake. None of that has gone into my mouth. To this, get out of the fridge. We're also adding half a cup of milk. Cracked open a brand new gallon of milk. And put the milk back. Finally, well, there's a lot more yet. Not finally. There are more ingredients coming still, but to this, in addition, half a cup of honey. Here's where I'm going to eyeball it because you know how difficult honey is to get out of a measuring spoon or anything like that. So, besides, it's not like putting too much of it in is a bad thing. I am guesstimating about half a cup of honey. A little ways to go yet. My guess is this would be about a quarter cup. Just a little more. Come on. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. All right. And as far as symbolism is concerned, I like the idea of milk and honey in this kind of a cake. I mean, yeah, I know there are religious reasons, etc., but it also gives it kind of like a traditional or classical or ancient flavor or idea to it that we're using milk and honey in this cake. Hmm, there we go. It's giving it a better texture to this batter, which is still going to be incredibly thick. However, I do believe we're not done yet. Um, let's see here. Da, 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 da. Oh, yeah. In fact, after the flour, I even forgot a couple of things, namely baking soda and powder and a little bit of salt. So this cake would not have risen if I had made that mistake. So we'll just have to fake it. To this, we add about half a teaspoon of salt. There we go. As you can see, I'm not being exact here. And 1.5 teaspoons each of baking soda and baking powder. So yeah, there's definitely, if I had not included that, that would be a problem. Okay, 1. This is the baking powder. 2. And 3. And to this, we add the baking soda. All of these are in half teaspoon amounts. 1, 2, and 3. This is the remainder of the baking soda that I used to douse the fire, but I have already bought another box of it. All right, now let's do our best to get this all mixed in. I know I should have mixed it in with the flour, but that was my fault. However, it does seem like it is being absorbed in nicely. Also, I noticed the butter, while I can still see a few chunks of butter in it, everything is indeed coming together here. Let me make sure I haven't forgotten anything else. Okay. Butter, sugar, eggs, flour, salt, baking soda, powder, rum, milk, honey. Okay, now the spices. Half a teaspoon of ground cloves. Here it is. Oh, here they are. I realize not a lot of people use cloves in their baking or cooking. I don't know, maybe because it's got this kind of savory, sweet smell and taste by itself. But when mixed in, it definitely gives a unique flavor to it. It does not spoil it. 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. On the other hand, folks love their cinnamon. 1. Here's 2. Ooh, fresh cinnamon. I can definitely smell this too. Yeah. Okay. 1 teaspoon of ground cardamom. That's because I love cardamom. It's similar to ginger, but not the same, as anyone who's made or eaten cardamom cookies knows. So yes, this is definitely going to be a spice cake. And to this, finally, a teaspoon, yeah, no, a teaspoon actually, I'm wrong, of ground nutmeg. There we go. Means trying to get out another nutmeg. Where did I put it? I put it out. Having a little trouble locating it. And that is my microplane. I know I put it right here. All right. Sorry for the delay. I'm probably staring me right in the face. I'm moving this fruit around. Okay, here's the cover for it. Yes, indeed. It is staring me right in the face. All right. Freshly ground nutmeg. There's definitely going to be some flavor in this spice cake. And as you can see, it's really easy to do too, as long as I don't cut myself on the microplane. As to how much of this is a teaspoon, my understanding is about half of one of these whole nutmegs is about a teaspoon. Which means I'd say we're just about there at this point. All right, now that we've done that, throw this in there. Where are we? Almost done, because I have a little bit more zesting to do, and this is the other thing that I like. At this point, I would add powdered ginger, except that I don't need to, because in the fruit mix there is that that candied ginger. So that means next we get to do some zesting. One orange, remove the peel. I said not the peel, the label. Okay. And get started. This actually does not take very long. And after this is done, I get to eat the orange. Oops, yeah, get it all over the place, why don't I? I love zesting. Whoever came up with the idea of zesting, oranges and lemons and all that was a genius. Because the amazing thing is, while orange peels and lemon rinds are incredibly bitter, you don't taste any of that with the zest. Instead, it definitely adds a nice orange and lemon flavor to it. Almost done. Don't want to drop the orange. It wouldn't spoil anything, but it would get this a little messy. Okay, try not to miss that. There we go. That's better. Also, the zest is definitely absorbed completely into the batter. I have never had an instance of finding little bits of orange peel or anything in the finished product after doing this. So, there is one orange. Put that aside for me. Next comes one lemon. Remove the label. And just do the same thing. Oh, I can smell this already. Is it a little bit of green? Maybe it's an underripe lemon? I don't think that'll be a problem. And after this, pretty much, the batter is done. All we'll have to do is mix in all that fruit, also some nuts, and then into the pan, and then into the oven. Which means really this video is not going to take much longer here because I'm not going to be here for the entire hour and a half that it's going to take to bake this cake. On the other hand, I'm definitely, I'm not finished yet. Not until the cake is done. I was going to say accomplished, but no. Although if nothing else, at least it's demonstrating that the oven is working because all this time the oven has been preheating in the background. And we are pretty much done here with zesting. Well, maybe a tiny bit more. Zesting this orange. Lemon, rather. We already did the orange. All right. Okay. Mix it around a little bit more. Get these spices into the batter. I think after this, I'm going to rearrange the ingredients and put the spices in at the same time as the flour. Also, the baking powder and soda that I missed. But it is still working. Okay. Also, this is the other reason why the other Christmas tradition with family plum pudding or Christmas pudding is for the entire family to come together and stir it for good luck. Also, because you need that extra effort to stir this thing. As you can see, this is a very, very thick batter. One other thing. Okay. All right, now that we've done that, let's move that over. Hi, sorry I haven't had a chance to chat with you folks. I've been a little busy here. Milkweed is great for butterflies, especially monarch butterflies. Nice. The cocoons are so pretty. Oh, you're talking about butterflies. Oh, well, that's nice. Okay. My mom grows milkweed for the butterflies. Just seeing if I've gotten any other snide remarks here. I like to use it in potato mac salads, homemade pickles, etc. It can dry easily. Oh, yeah, nutmeg. That's right. Okay. My stores don't always have fresh dill. Oh, yes, dill. That's what you're talking about. Okay. Church is over. Well, that's good, Corey Clark. Okay. That means you just triple check this. All right. I do believe everything is ready. So into this goes the fruit. Also some nuts. And here comes the fruit. That was easy. Also to this, making sure I don't miss anything. Honey, ground cloves. I do believe, oh, here it is. 1 cup of chopped nuts. All right, that won't be any difficulty. Let me see. All right, since I've used the 1/4 cup and the 1 cup and the 1/2 cup, I'll have to use the 1/3 cup. And do 3 of these of sliced almonds, which again, I do not want to spill all over the place. So I have to be careful opening this. There we go. All right. Get this in. 1, because you know, when they say nutty as a fruitcake, this is what they're referring to. 2. And 3. Okay, now for the final mixing, and this is going to be the tough one. Let me get rid of some of my mess while I'm at it. These cups in the sink, and my measuring spoons. I'm done with all that. Okay, now to do this, again, without spilling it or tossing these things all over the place, could explode out of this bowl or something. No, I'm not speaking from experience, again. Anyway, it's really only a matter of making sure this thick batter is thoroughly mixed in with the fruit filling. And at least you can definitely say this fruit is not going to sink to the bottom of the cake. Time, I want to be sure that there are a few gaps in the cake. Although, as I mentioned, this is good spice cake itself. So even if there are portions of this that don't have fruit in them, that should still taste fine on its own. Even so, we are just about done here. All right. This is looking not bad at all. Okay. Yeah. Okay, get this out of the way. And now, one more time, here comes our greased cast iron fluted cake pan. At which point now, I have to be sure again not to spill this as I scoop this, that was easy, into the pan. And this is what I mean about the batter being so much different from your typical cake batter, as you can see. You don't even need to press it down. It is actually all going to settle as the cake bakes. One other thing. Whoops, did I drop a little bit of the batter? Yes, I did. There we go. But one other thing. This cake rises fantastic. I mean, after all, I'm using a total of 3 teaspoons of baking powder and soda, which certainly does help this to rise. I don't know how much citric acid is it's going to get from the dried fruit, but it definitely helps. All right, now when my oven caught on fire last Thursday, I had not prepared this one. I had prepared a traditional fruitcake recipe, the kind that you do soak in rum and everything, which I've done several times before. However, for some reason, that one started bubbling and it produced much more liquid than I've ever seen this recipe produce. So I'm not even sure what happened. But nonetheless, the point was it all spilled over onto the bottom of the oven, started smoking, and eventually caught fire. Obviously, never again. So, when this goes into the oven, I do have a sheet pan or half sheet pan underneath. I think I better get that knife again. Underneath to catch anything that might spill over from the pan, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing that on a lot more regular basis from now on. I guess you could say lesson learned. All right. Just about done. The video's almost done too, for that matter. For those of you who have things to do, including me. There we go, the last little bit of the batter. All right. And again, even though it looks like this pan is only about 3/4 of the way full, wait till you see what happens when the cake comes out of the oven. Or watch my previous fruitcake videos and you'll see what happens when the cake comes out of the oven. Hello, Radagast as well. I was going to say something. Okay. Oh, I see. Talking about dragonflies and hummingbirds. All right. Nonetheless, there we are. Finally. Which means now it's time to move the camera over. And here, once again, is the oven, which, as far as I can tell, is intact, which has been cleaned. In fact, if you want me to lower the camera, get a better view, more or less. Turn on the light. All right, because now it's time to finally get this cake into the oven. Oh boy. I don't want to get that wire trip over that wire. So, okay. Here is our cake batter and our cast iron cake pan. A 1, a 2. Notice the sheet pan in there. A 3. The oven is set to only 300 degrees. This is going to be a slow baked cake. It's going to be there for at least an hour and a half, possibly more, depending on when the toothpick test tells us that the cake is done. But there we go. Did it. And assuming it doesn't catch on fire again, there should not be any more disasters, which means in a little while, we will have fruitcake. Haha. So thank you, everybody, once again, who's been kind enough to come here on a Sunday morning. Yes, thank you. Getting back on track. Well, not to worry. Yeah, exactly. I could see, yeah, you had something much more important than this. So you can always watch the replay, but that's fine. Thank you for showing up, getting back on track. And thank you to everybody. I picked up a shallow fryer. Oh, nice. A sportsman. Wonder how much oil goes in. Good question. I have poured 2 quarts of oil into the deep fryer and gotten that to be maybe about half full. I suspect that shallow fryer could take about 1 quart of oil. You might want to try testing it with water first, just to be sure. But um, there we go. So thank you once again, everybody. And I will, of course, be filming the fruitcake when it comes out of the oven, assuming I survive it. But no, seriously, I don't think there's anything to worry about. This time I took precautions that I should have taken before, which means, as I said, we will be having fruitcake later today. Thank you to everybody who's been kind enough to show up here. And enjoy your Sunday morning, folks. 10 days before Christmas, we all have things to do. But thank you very much for your time. And once again, have a good day, everyone.